What's going on, guys? Getting in the greens, our first football edition. Really looking forward to week one here at the NFL. And like we mentioned before in some of our other podcasts, kind of NFL is what really got us into this, and we're looking forward to bringing you guys some good content this year.
Yeah. Also, just give you a breakdown of how these are typically going to go. We're going to touch on, kind of sleepers, players we like, specifically going to DraftKings values. That is kind of where we place the most of our heavy money goes into DraftKings. So we'll spend a large portion breaking down position by position rankings and values for DraftKings. And then we'll go over our just bets and prop bets again. NFL, football in general, much higher stakes bets for us than MMA. So we are excited to be back in football season. We're a few days away from opening kickoff, which is a great game. It's gonna be the Cowboys versus the Bucs on Thursday. This is kind of to give a preview of what we're going to be talking about. We're going to have our in-depth show on Friday that will really go into those lineups and where we're leaning, our tournament plays versus our 50-50s and our cash plays. So quite a lot of content will be on the Friday one. Today we kind of just want to go over our basic premise and some of the things we're going to be talking about.
Yeah, also, if you're playing on a different format, you're on FanDuel, you're on Yahoo Fantasy, something like that, a lot of our content's going to cross over. We're going to give you the values in DraftKings dollars, but, if it's a good deal on DraftKings, it's generally a good deal on FanDuel. So definitely tune in. We're going to get started, though, kind of, I think we both finished up all of our season-long drafts at this point.
Yep.
And kind of go over some players we're looking forward to watching this year. Definitely some sleepers and some guys we...
Yeah, let's talk about season long. First thing I want to talk about, which I've just been an unpaid spokesman for this style of draft. I've gotten a lot of my drafts to recently switch to auction in the last couple of years here. If you haven't tried it, basically the idea of auction is you're able to bid on every player and it goes for a certain value. Far superior to Snake. If you're a beginner, I understand why Snake has a lot of appeal because it's a little bit easier to study for, a little bit easier to go on. But if you got a good draft and a good group that is very into fantasy, you got to switch over to auction. Once you switch, it's going to be hard to come back. Yeah. Once I do a Snake now, it's brutal compared to auction.
It's actually really hard to find a lot of articles on kind of auction valuing players. Everybody focuses on Snake because it's the most common. But yeah, if you're into football and you want to sit there and really focus, auction draft's the way to go. It really separates good fantasy football players from bad fantasy football players. Yep. Definitely check it out. Give it a try.
All right, let's talk about some of the players we got in this draft, some players we're excited about, some sleepers. Let's kind of start at the top of the draft. Let's start with the obvious. Everybody's really good. Obviously we're going to go Christian McCaffrey is still going to be your number one running back, but maybe in the first round, Corey, what'd you have as let's go running backs first. What was kind of your sneaky pick or a steal that you've been having on your team that you expect to outperform their ADP?
I like Eckler, man. Depending on what draft you're in, I think he was 8 to 12 kind of ranking overall. Look, the guy, when he plays and he's healthy with Herbert, he's going to catch so many balls. The guy scores. He's explosive. The fact that he came back from that injury the way he did, and that was a brutal injury he had, he looks good. And I don't see that big of a drop-off between him and the Zekes and the Saquon Barkleys and these guys that were going before him.
I like Eckler a lot, PPR. For me, if we're talking first round, depending on where you are. So for example, in some drafts, which kind of changed recently, but I was getting Zeke closer to pick number 8, 9, 10, or at a value that was similar to that. And I think, Zeke for me was probably my fourth overall player. So that was a steal, I thought. A little bit later in the draft that I think is first round steal. I really like Aaron Jones this year. Again, I think he's going to be freed a little bit more. I do like A.J. Dillon in real football, not fantasy. But I think with Williams out of the backfield, he's going to have more touches, more touchdowns. So I liked him in that first round. A little bit later, if we're talking maybe second, some of my big running backs, guys to target early. I think Joe Mixon's in for a bounce back year, and I really like Clyde Edwards-Helaire when you can get him late second, even early third in some drafts. So that was kind of the guys that I was targeting. My biggest bust probably for the first round, and bust is a relative term because you're still talking about first round. I think it was, and we've actually talked about this, I think it's going to be Derrick Henry for me. If we're talking about PPR formats, he's just going, third, fourth overall, and I don't see him finishing that. He's carried the ball too much. He doesn't catch passes. He still is ultimately touchdown dependent. They're going to have better passing offense. I think he's going to have a good season. I don't think he's going to finish in the top 3 or 4 back total overall players like he did in last year.
Yeah, I think Henry's definitely a candidate to be, quote unquote bust, but he's going to fall out of the top 5 in running backs this year, and he's game script dependent as well. And with their revamped secondary there in Tennessee, they're going to be really bad.
Yeah.
If they fall behind in some of these games, Nichols last year, when he did get opportunities in blowouts, showed to be the better pass catching back. He was also explosive, and I could see, if Tennessee starts falling behind in some of these games and they got to turn up the pace, also in an attempt to save Henry. They gave him too many touches, man.
Yep.
And sooner or later that wears on these guys. I could see them kind of leaning a little more Nichols. Obviously, the guy's not going to steal too much share from Henry, but you take a handful of touchdowns away from Henry, and, we've talked about this a bunch. He'll have a game that's, on paper, great. 21 carries, 131 yards, no catches, no touchdowns. You're looking at 13.1.
Yeah.
And that's just a tough week to swallow when that's your guy at the top of the draft. Another bust, though, that I'm just not sold on, Najee Harris going way too early, man.
Yeah.
You got a rookie running back. Historically, outside of Adrian Peterson, you don't get these monster years from these guys. Pittsburgh's got a weak offensive line. I do kind of like Ben this year, but he's aging. They've got weapons on the outside. Najee Harris is going too early.
I agree with you. I don't think Najee Harris is necessarily going to be a total bust, but I agree that he's being drafted kind of with his ceiling as opposed to his median in between floor and ceiling, and he's being drafted as a bell cow who's going to produce as opposed to a rookie who's going to get a lot of touches. He's going to have some good games, going to have some bad games, and
he wasn't even
mediocre
drafted.
Offensive line.
This guy wasn't drafted in the top 10 of the NFL draft either.
Yeah.
People are talking about him like he's this next coming of a great running back, and I'm like, this guy, he was okay. He was good in college.
Honestly, I think his season is going to be very similar to what James Conner did last year, which was okay.
It was okay.
He had some good games. He had some 20-point games. He had some good showings. He had some crappy showings. And if I took that guy at the end of the first round, beginning of the second, I would have been upset with my pick, as that was my RB1. So, how about let's just talk. I know we've just been talking running backs right now. Let's go. Let's open this up a little bit. Let's talk about just some sleepers, maybe mid to late round picks, guys that you just feel are going way later than they should, that you think could win you a fantasy championship.
Yeah, obviously let's just stick on running backs here, and we can pretty much finish out with that. And that's probably Gus Edwards got the biggest boost with the D.K. Dobbins injury, and now Justice Hill as well. That Baltimore team runs the ball a lot. Was getting them in a steal and auction drafts under $20 in a lot of them. And he's gonna get the touches. That offense is good. They're gonna be ahead. They got a great defense this year. So Gus Edwards is definitely a steal. And then the guy I'm really leaning on this year to kind of have the breakout year he was expected to have last year is Miles Sanders.
Yep.
And him and Hurts kind of had some good chemistry going at the end of last year. And I think he can roll in. They got some weapons, too, in Philly this year with Devontae Smith on the outside. They still got Rager. So Miles Sanders is definitely one that I could see having a top 10 type season if he really explodes.
I like both those picks. Definitely Gus Edwards. He just seems like an easy fit for great offensive line, great running attack, run the ball more than almost any team in the NFL. Bruiser. He's going to be good. I also think he's a safe pick. He's got a high floor where even if he doesn't crazy produce, he's getting the touches. He's going to score some touchdowns. He's going to have a good season. So I like him. My biggest sleeper, which does come with some risk reward here, but I just think he's such dynamite when he's actually playing, is Raheem Mostert. And he was a steal for me. He was one of my picks for a steal last year. Obviously, he got a little bit injured, didn't have the greatest season, but when he played, he's good. I feel the same this year. Sermon's going several rounds or more, in auction, more money than what Mostert's going for, and I just don't see it. It's Mostert's job to lose. He's going to start the season. I have no worries about him producing. First off, San Francisco and Shanahan, you want their running backs, period. They produce the running backs, and I think Mostert's one of the most talented running backs in the league. If he can stay healthy, he's going to be an absolute steal where he's going. He's a league winner. Now, granted, health concerns are a big thing. He's getting injured, so don't reach too high for him. But where he's going, I think he could win somebody a league, and I tried to get him in as many leagues as possible. That's my big running back that could win you the league. And I know Sermon's getting similar hype. I just think Sermon is really only valuable if Mostert goes down. I don't see him beating Mostert straight up for the job. Even if he gets a timeshare, I don't see him having running back one value. Whereas Mostert, if he produces, holds on to his job, he could be RB1 value. So
yeah, and then a couple more little honorable mentions is Mike Davis is definitely a safe play later in the draft.
Yep.
Running back one in Atlanta, and I think the only guy behind him is Cordarrelle Patterson.
Yeah, and I think they signed Gallman
They
or
signed
somebody
Gallman.
now.
He's still trying to figure out the offense. Look, is he going to explode? Probably not, but he's definitely serviceable as a flex every week.
Yep.
He's a good pick. And then another bust that I think people are just, and we talked, Javonte Williams in Denver.
I don't get that one.
Look, Melvin Gordon is still the top running back there. He's the goal line guy.
Yep.
Best case scenario for Javonte Williams is you get this timeshare that they kind of had with Lindsey.
Yeah.
And look, he's not going to be a top 20 running back, I don't think.
I was going to say, here's my
Any
thing.
week.
It's not even that I'm going to hype Melvin Gordon. I'm not super interested in the Denver backfield, period.
Yeah.
If I can get Melvin Gordon, who's still the starter, 4 rounds later, I'm going with Melvin Gordon.
Yeah.
I don't understand the hype there. I know he's a talented runner, but it's going to be a timeshare. Not interested in touching it. One more that we left out here, especially if we're talking about PPR formats. I think he has a safe floor, and another guy who could be a league winner for me is Myles Gaskin.
Yeah.
And the reason I like Gaskin so much, and even more than maybe Mostert in certain examples, is they have that nice safe floor where if he doesn't explode like I think he is, he's still going to be a productive RB.
Yeah.
He's not going to ruin your season either. He's going to be good. But he has the potential to be a just PPR machine where he's going to produce on the ground. He's going to get the touchdown touches. He's going to get 4, 5, 6 catches a game. He could be a monster. So I've been reaching for him as much as I can within reason. I'm not going to take him 3 rounds earlier. I'm not going to pay $20 more. But when I can get him, I've been trying to get him. I think he has a lot of potential, especially if we're talking PPR leagues.
Yeah, and him and Tua should link up pretty well. It's a young team. They're going to be exciting. They got a lot of weapons this year, too, and we'll dig into that at receiver. But, yeah, let's go receivers, though. Obviously, the top dogs are the top dogs. There's not much to say there. You got Adams, Hill, Ridley, Hopkins. I think Hopkins should be a little higher than he is.
I like Hopkins a lot this year. I don't understand why he's going
5, 4 for receivers.
4 for receivers and mid to late second, possibly even third.
Yeah.
It wouldn't shock me one bit if Hopkins was the number 1 overall receiver this year. So
He gets the target share.
I like the value there.
Now, mid to late, and these are a couple where there's kind of a changing of the guard happening on their team, but you're still getting veteran receivers at just such a discount, and that's going to be Adam Thielen, who's going just rounds after Justin Jefferson. And look, Justin Jefferson's the one. No one's going to take that from him. But Adam Thielen's going to get more than enough targets to be a top wide receiver in the league.
Yep.
And you're going to see the over-top coverage go to Jefferson now.
Yep.
And Thielen loves to eat across the middle, man. So Thielen's one of them for me. Amari Cooper, I don't even know if there's a changing of the guard in Dallas.
I think Amari Cooper is the number one receiver in Dallas.
CeeDee Lamb is going really high, and I understand the hype. He's a slot receiver. He's explosive when he gets the ball. Look, that guy could take a 2-yard pass and go 80. Amari Cooper is a legitimate wide receiver 1, and he is just getting disrespected.
I agree. I grabbed as much Amari as I could. I think he could be, especially, I think generally there's a lack of love for Dallas because of how they performed at the end of the season. But, I mean, if you look at the numbers while Dak was at quarterback, this is number one offense in the league type of numbers. Yeah. And,
also a pretty bad defense.
Pretty bad defense, exactly.
That's a great
combination.
Keep going. Yeah, they're going to
go. But, even for me, it's even if CeeDee Lamb is the number one, even if CeeDee Lamb has the season, Amari's going to produce number one numbers as long as Dak stays healthy. And if I can get him so much later, I'm taking him.
He's a crisp route runner, and he's great in the red zone. I mean, the guy checks all the boxes for me. And then the one I grabbed in almost every league I could is Tyler Lockett. Look, DK's the guy now.
Yeah.
You're paying a premium for DK, and don't get me wrong, the guy's a specimen. But Tyler Lockett, I know he was real boom or bust last year. I think if you ask him, though, man, he was really banged up in a lot of those games that he didn't perform well.
I like that offense in general.
The offense is going to move.
Yeah.
You got Russell Wilson definitely, at the top of his game still. They improved the offensive line. And Lockett's a veteran receiver, man. He can get it done. He's going way too late. So that's kind of for me, I'm big on load up on running backs because after a couple of those guys, the drop-off is immense.
Mm-hmm.
And then I tried to eat in that little range of receivers right there.
Yep.
The other team that, you got to kind of decide what guy you want, but Tampa Bay.
I was about to say I was waiting for you there, but my steal of the entire draft, and maybe I'm putting too many eggs in this basket, but Antonio Brown. I like all their receivers, but, we're talking about a receiver that was fantasy royalty and receiver royalty for
on another level
10
too.
Straight seasons, something like that. You got Tom Brady. He lived with Tom Brady. Tom Brady was his biggest advocate to come on this team.
Mm-hmm.
He has a whole season with Tom Brady. Might be Tom Brady's favorite target on this team. I'm not trying to get over hyped on this, but it would not surprise me if Antonio Brown is the number one receiver on Tampa Bay by the end of the year. Maybe from a possessions, maybe not touchdowns, but from catches, from usage, and you're getting this guy, late. I also think he has a pretty safe floor as well, where if the guy doesn't explode for me, I'm not mad about it. I'm still going to have a guy who's going to get me 10, 11 fantasy points because he's going to get his 5 catches and 50 yards. I can live with that where he's going in the draft. Yeah. And the upside is you have a guy who is going to be the old Antonio Brown and win you the league easily. So
he's dynamic with the ball still. Also, the guy runs the routes that Brady likes to throw.
Yes.
Those underneath, quick slants, crisp route running. Look, Mike Evans and Chris Godwin are studs on the outside. They need the ball up the field. That's their game. And Brady can still throw it. Brady loves to eat underneath. He did it with Edelman.
Yep.
Those are his guys.
Yeah, Brown's his type of receiver.
The most athletic slot receiver he's ever had.
Yeah. I'm excited about that. I'm excited also where, again, there's just so many ranges of scenarios, which is they're just going to score so many points that they're all going to have their moments. They're all going to have value. It's just going to be an offense that is that good.
Yeah, one more I want to touch on for quality before we kind of go into some busts is Cortland Sutton.
Yeah.
I like the guy, man. He got hurt last year. I think Denver's offense is going to be a lot better under Teddy Bridgewater. You got Jerry Jeudy on the other side, who is maybe wide receiver 1 there, but it's close. Sutton had a monster year the prior year.
Yeah.
And if they can get some consistent quarterback play there in Denver, he definitely will break his value.
I like Teddy.
Yeah, Teddy's
good
good
to throw.
Actually, one more. Brandon Cooks in Houston as the only wide receiver for Tyrod Taylor.
Yeah.
Look, man, that guy's going to hit value. They just don't have anybody else to throw to.
Mm-hmm.
No Will Fuller, who's in Miami now. I like Cooks.
I like him PPR. I'm worried about him getting touchdowns just because I think that offense can struggle. But PPR, he's going to get his catches.
Yeah. Couple busts. I'm just not on the Allen Robinson train.
Yeah, neither am I. Don't get me wrong. I think Allen Robinson could be when Fields finally gets to go. I think he will improve, but he's going as an elite number 1 receiver, and I don't see him. I see him more as a wide receiver 2, with a range of possibilities of where he's going to come. I'm definitely not taking him round 1, like as my 1 receiver.
Yeah, and then the other one who could have a monster year, but Deontay Johnson's in a crowded wide receiver corps, and he kind of emerged as wide receiver 1 last year. You still got Juju Smith-Schuster signed the 1-year deal there. Chase Claypool's going to get some targets. They're going to try and feed Najee Harris and protect Big Ben a little bit if they can. I don't know, man. He's not wide receiver 1 material for me.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. A little bit later in the draft, 2 guys for me, and this is, I'm going to get some hate for this because I'm positive one of these guys will explode and be worth it. You just don't know who and when. But 2 guys for me that are still going too high are Waddle and Jamar Chase. Mm-hmm. I understand the rookie love. I understand the talent and the possibilities. But these guys are being drafted as if they're already the ones. And in both, they're in very similar scenarios where they have great receiving cores. You know, in Jamar Chase, you have Higgins and Tyler Boyd. Like, could he emerge as the one? Sure. Could he have a big year? Sure. Am I going to draft him as if he's already the number 1? Not a chance. I think he's probably the 3 out of those guys. Same goes for Waddle. Waddle's extremely talented. He obviously has played with Tua. He understands, you know, they have a little bit of a relationship. Same with the
Chase
Jamar Chase, Burrow. I get that. But, you know, there's a lot of talent in Miami. You have Devontae Parker, who may be on a little bit of a downside of his career, but he's still a really athletic, talented guy. And you got Will Fuller, who's an absolute stud when he's healthy. So, look, one of those guys probably going to break out, and I'm going to look stupid here, but I just feel like they're being drafted as if they've already broken out, and people are so comfortable having them as their wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 flex. And it's like, I'd love to have that guy stashed on my bench to see what happens, but I can't draft him in a position in a starting lineup. That's something I've noticed that I'm not on board with. And if you want a rookie, I mean,
Devontae Smith.
Going a little later is Devontae Smith, and it's just about usage. It's not about talent. Now, granted, Devontae Smith might be the most talented. They're all very talented receivers, but it's just usage. He's going to be the one in Philly right away.
And Hurts is going to sling the rock.
I'm okay
with
Devontae
that. Smith.
I'm okay with that. Even Devontae Smith, when I have him, I'm trying to get him in a place where he can be my bench player or flex, where I'm going to be really excited to move him up, but I'm going to have to wait and see because, you know, I just can't tell you how many times we've seen rookie receivers have okay first years explode year 2, year 3 when they're getting their feet wet. I'm not going to draft a rookie to have a Justin Jefferson year. That's more the exception than the rule there. So
absolutely. And, I mean, a lot of those guys are with young quarterbacks, too. It's not like they just fell into a veteran system as wide receiver 1. Even Ridley took time to come along as a rookie, you know?
Yep.
So, yeah, I agree with you. They're going way too high. Look, let's keep quarterbacks real brief here. The top dogs are the top dogs. And
I'll say, obviously, it's a little late for the draft advice, but I'd say you can comfortably wait. There's a lot of elite quarterbacks.
Look, Aaron Rodgers is going a little lower than he should.
Especially the guy finished as the number 1 quarterback last year.
Yeah, he's an absolute stud. He's playing. He's got something to prove. He wants that contract next year wherever he wants to go. That guy is also, he's got a serious ego, man. That guy's not going to take a dive on the Packers.
Yep.
He's going to show up to play.
Later guys for me, I have had no problem taking Matthew Stafford late. I took Matthew Stafford all the time while he was in Detroit because the guy puts up yards. Doesn't matter what happens in real football. The guy puts up yards and touchdowns. So to have him with McVay, have some better receivers, I think he's going to have a big year. And then, you know, not that these guys are going to be league winners or anything, but from streamers or just from if you still have a draft late, I have no problem rolling with the Matt Ryan, Ben Roethlisberger, Jameis Winston's of the world. I really don't.
Jameis is the one.
Yeah.
Where, again, the same Stafford effect is, who cares about real football when we're talking fantasy quarterbacks here? That guy throws the ball down the field. He doesn't care.
He goes for it.
He goes for it. And I see him having a lot of games that are 300-plus yards.
Yep.
2 to 3 touchdowns, and probably 2 to 3 interceptions.
Yep.
But the interceptions just don't hurt you that much in fantasy. Jameis, might struggle until Michael Thomas gets healthy and back 'cause they don't have that many weapons. But anytime you can dump off to Kamara,
Yeah.
um,
I think James can be good. I do. I think he's a huge boom potential.
yeah,
Only thing that scares me is that he has Taysom Hill still lurking. If I
I'll use
knew
red zone packages with Hill.
yes, if I knew that he was going to be the starter all year long, I'd jump on him because I don't care about the interceptions either.
Mhm.
The only thing that scares me is does he throw 3 interceptions in a game and get benched for the next game?
Yeah.
That's where Matt Ryan I like. Where if you look at Matt Ryan's stats last year, he really didn't have a bad year. And Julio was down the whole time, so like the fact that Julio was traded doesn't mean anything to me. Julio barely played last year and was banged up the whole year. And if you're a Kyle Pitts believer, his offense might have improved, not lost anything with Julio gone because Julio was so injury prone. It's not like Matt Ryan really got to use him. So I'm excited to see what happens there.
Yeah, and I think Pitts was the best receiver drafted in that draft.
Yeah.
And he's a specimen, man. Watch that guy in Florida. I like Pitts. I like Matt Ryan. Another one I want to touch on, Sam Darnold, man. The guy's not as bad as he's made out to be. He scrambled for his life behind a Jets offensive line that couldn't protect him. Anytime you get to dump off to McCaffrey, man, your stats can look good. He's back with Robbie Anderson, who he had good chemistry with in New York. They got DJ Moore. Yeah, I mean, look, is he going to be a top dog? No. I don't have a problem streaming that guy at all.
Yeah.
During a bye week or something. So,
Yeah.
don't jump on quarterbacks too early if you're still drafting.
I'll
Lots
just
of
say,
talent there. Just load up on the skill positions.
It's going to be week by week, but from a DraftKings perspective, I got my eye on the Darnolds, the Teddy Bridgewaters, the
Yeah.
Trevor Lawrences, Joe Burrows of the world, because you're just going to get them at such an affordable price, and they don't score that much less than big dogs, especially if they have a good matchup and lineup.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, let's hit tight ends real quick. We're going to skip defense, kickers, and then we'll move on. Tight ends, it's pretty obvious that there's tiers. There's the top tier.
Mm-hmm.
You got Kelsey, Kittle, Waller, which I really don't think you can go wrong there. Depends where you grab them, but I think it's a legitimate strategy, especially those guys score receiver numbers. So I'm not going to touch too much on that. I like all three.
Yeah.
Kelsey's obviously top dog. Then you got the two, but they're all good.
Tier 2, it's packed.
Yes.
And I think it's more packed than people want to admit, but I know obviously Kyle Pitts is in that tier immediately just because of his potential. Hawkinson is the only weapon in Detroit.
Get catches.
He's going to get catches.
A guy who I think's in that middle tier, not the late tier. I have my late sleepers for tight end. That middle tier who I think is getting a little disrespected is Mark Andrews.
Yeah, Mark Andrews, again, a team that lacks weapons on the outside.
Exactly.
He's going to eat across the middle.
And he's Lamar's favorite target. He's on an offense that's going to score freaking points again. I really like him to score. The offense moves the ball. When they get in that little red zone 10, 15 yards out, and they're just slightly too far to run, he eats right there. He's going to score touchdowns. And he's going as if he's kind of way beyond that tier. And it's like, I think Mark Andrews is very close to that. Out of all the other guys in the middle tier, he's the closest to tier 1. So that's a guy in the middles that I like. Late, and guys that I've just been waiting, if I didn't draft anybody, 2 guys that I've been drafting just nonstop. It's going to be Johnny Smith for the Patriots, now that I got Mac Jones got the start, and Gronkowski.
Yeah.
And Gronk for the Bucks, he was really starting to come on there. Obviously, he had the huge Super Bowl performance. Not saying we're going to get old Gronk. I'm not even saying we're going to get a touchdown every week. I think he will be more involved, and I think it's an offense that's going to score so many points that, a tight end where you're okay with 4 catches for 50 yards, that would be a acceptable performance normally. I think you're going to like Gronk. He's going to get his catches. He's going to get touchdowns every other game. He's a good guy for where he's going value-wise.
Yeah, a couple guys I want to touch on is Robert Tonyan. Look, there's this idea that he's going to have this huge drop-off with his touchdown. He's one of Aaron Rodgers' favorite targets, man. And Devontae Adams sees double coverage all game.
Yeah.
They don't really have much else. I mean, they brought back Randall Cobb, but we're talking an old Randall Cobb here. I think Tanyan's serviceable every week, man, as a streamer. And then the other guy is Dallas Goedert. Zach Ertz is I mean, I think they're talking about trading him to Minnesota at this point.
Yeah, I think they've kind of said he might stay now, but yes, Goodaire's
Goodaire's
clearly the guy
He's
now.
tight end 1 with Hurts.
Yes.
Look, he's going to score every week, man. And if you didn't jump on a top tight end, you can't expect more than that 8 to 12 points, and those two guys are going to get it to you every week.
Yep.
They have a really high floor. They obviously lack the boom that those top dogs have, but if you want to play it safe at tight end, you don't want to get burned with somebody that goes one catch for 10 yards.
Yep.
They're safe plays.
All right, let's talk week 1 DraftKings. We're going to not get into too much detail as we're going to really dive in next on Friday to go over everything. Let's touch on some games we're excited about. There's a couple that stick out to me. Biggest games just for shootout potential. I'm going with I like the Eagles-Falcons.
Yeah, anytime you get two bad teams playing each other,
Exactly.
they check all the boxes. They can't run the football very well, either of them.
Exactly.
Bad defenses, bad teams. Yeah.
Also, generally, other than maybe Calvin Ridley, they're not super star-studded teams where you can get a lot of their best players for cheap. There's a lot of value in that game. Next one, a little bit different. There is a lot of star players in this game, but just from a scoring perspective, I love the Cardinals-Titans.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be a shootout. I think you need to get some people in that game. Then the final one that's not really going out on too much of a limb here, I think everybody understands, it's going to be the Chiefs-Browns.
Yeah, and actually, a lot of people aren't talking about taking these Chiefs players this week because there's this complete hype around the Browns defense. And look, I don't care how good your defense is, you don't stop that Kansas City offense.
No. Plus, I think the game's going to be relatively competitive. So Kansas City's going to stay on the gas the whole time. They're not going to just dominate and have people sit out in the fourth quarter or anything like that. I think it's going to be competitive enough where they need to keep scoring.
Yeah, and then another game which is completely dependent on the weather at this point. I know it got moved to Jacksonville, but the New Orleans-Green Bay game is projecting rain, even though Carolina game's clear, so I'm not completely sure on that. But if those two teams are in good weather, you could have a shootout on your hands there in New Orleans-Green Bay.
Definitely. Obviously, they're not going to be on our DraftKings lineups because it's a Thursday night game. For your fantasy teams, definitely you want to grab Cowboys, Buccaneers players. It's going to be high scoring. Last game I want to touch on that I don't necessarily think is going to be a shootout, but I think there's a lot of value. I'm going to go with the 49ers and Lions, and mostly it's going to be the 49ers running backs. Mm-hmm. I love Mostert this week. I know you have already spoken about him. I've hyped on him. If you like Sermon and disagree with me, either way, it's a great matchup. He's not going for too much. I really I love the 49ers running backs this week, whether you're talking DraftKings or whether you're talking about your actual lineups. I think they're going to just pound Detroit. I think they're going to get a nice early lead. They're coming back from a really rough year last year. I think they're going to want to put on a show and really put up points, and I think those guys could go off. So that's the game I'm touching on.
Really bad this year.
Yes.
They're really bad. Yeah, and then as far as defenses go, and there's some bad teams here, and I wish the Thursday game was on Sunday because the Cowboys' offensive line is completely beat up.
Yeah.
Tampa's defense is going to tee off. We also, I don't think we get to play the Bears-Rams game.
Yeah, I was going to say, from normal football, not for DraftKings, because we don't get to play it. Rams are my number one this week for sure against Dalton. Yeah, there's a couple games.
Look, I think New England's defense is back to full strength. Belichick gives young quarterbacks fits, and Tua might really struggle with that defense in New England.
I actually like that game, both sides.
That's going to be a fun game.
I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. It's like, I think I'm very comfortable playing the Patriots against Miami. I'm also very comfortable playing Miami against the Patriots. I think Miami has a good defense. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game.
Yeah.
Over-under on here is 43.5. It's one of the lowest games already. I like either one on that from a defensive perspective.
Yeah, and then, the game I want to touch on is the redemption game for Sam Darnold. At home, Carolina Jets.
Yep.
You got McCaffrey back healthy. You've got his weapons. Nothing would say, you guys made a mistake with me more than Sam Darnold just going out there and absolutely tearing the Jets' poor defense apart.
Yep.
And the Panthers' defense isn't very good either. You know, Corey Davis, who we didn't touch on much, might have a nice little game against them too. And
Yep.
again, you got two bad teams playing. Jets definitely can't control the ball. They don't have a running back. Week one's gonna be good though. But this week we'll dive into shadow reports. We'll dive into some of the other stuff. Definitely want to point out, COVID watch is always on now. That can really shake up lineups here at the end of the week.
Yep.
I mean, that's pretty much all last year was just last minute plug and plays because of COVID.
Yep.
So hopefully we don't have too much of it, but that's something we keep our eye on here every morning, and we'll keep you guys updated with COVID.
Yeah, that's kind of it for our preview. Please submit your questions to our website for Friday's show. I know they're already starting to fill up, so we can we're gonna have a Q&A section there, whether that be DraftKings, whether that be your own personal lineups, whatever it may be. We're accepting questions there. We're excited to dig a little bit deeper on DraftKings. I think you've probably heard me say this previously. Week one is probably like our heaviest betting on DraftKings of the entire year because we feel like there's so much to figure out and there's so much value there on certain players. So really tune into this one. This is probably the one we're most excited about every year is week one.
Yeah.
It's probably my most successful one each year because there's so much uncertainty still out there. The obvious stuff's not there. So we're excited. We already have some good stuff down on some value plays. We're going to go over that Friday. Again, get the questions in, and we'll see you then.
Yeah, and we're going live Friday. Also, look, if you're on DraftKings Sportsbook in a state where that's legal, player props, we're definitely going to give you our top player props of the week to bet on.
And the actual games.
And there's a couple games that we're definitely
couple
gonna be
games,
pounding.
couple overs that we like as well.
Yeah. So player props, lots of DraftKings. Like I said, we're going to go live Friday. Tune in, and any questions, just call in, and we'll get them answered for you guys.
All right.